Go ahead.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay, is it full screen?
It is on mine.
All right, cool. All right, so thanks everyone for joining. We're just gonna give you an intro to the new software we're gonna be using, Flight Circle, and kind of go over the main features that all the flying members are gonna need to know how to use. There we go. Okay, so to start, I know I'm certainly aware that whenever there's changes to a normal process, stuff we're used to, it can be a pain and a hassle and cause us to think, why are we doing this? But I promise this is maybe some short-term pain, but in the long run, this is going to be a lot better, I think, for the club, especially as we start to grow and get more people. There's just a lot of features in this software that we don't have now that'll take away a lot of the manual processes that we have to spend time on every month. We're going to try and do our best to make sure this rolls out as smoothly as possible, but since we haven't actually used it across the club yet, there's going to be hurdles that we run into. And so we're just asking for your patience as we try and work through this. We're all going to be learning some stuff here, but you know, I can speak for myself. I have my number and email at the end of this. You know, want people to get in touch as they're running into issues, and I'll try and get things resolved as quickly as we can. So this will be as smooth as possible, but there will be some hurdles, so just bear with us as we go. So in case you're not sure why we're doing this, I thought it'd be worthwhile to just go over a quick summary of what we do now. So speaking of the way we log time, the way you get billed every month, there's the manual log sheets that you're all familiar with that you have to fill out your time before and after the flight. And then at the end of the month, I've been going out to the airport, I'll get the log sheets and then put out the new ones so that it's ready to go for the next month. And then all of the data that's on those log sheets has to get manually entered into Excel. So every time for every flight, for every person, is getting entered into a spreadsheet, and then we sort that, and then that's what's used to generate the invoice. So then you go into QuickBooks, and for each member, we go through and enter each flight that they did, how many hours, and it builds the billing that way. So what Flight Circle is going to do is eliminate a lot of those manual steps and get this a lot more software controlled. And like I mentioned, it's already getting to be a pretty big undertaking trying to keep up with all of this manually. And as the club continues to grow, it's going to become even more difficult. So like the Cherokee, for example, has been pretty much 3 of those log sheets filled every month with flights. And so each one of those is a line that needs to get entered for the billing as well as in that spreadsheet. So it just adds up to a pretty big chunk of time to do it. There's also some other benefits beyond just the flight tracking and the billing. So from a maintenance standpoint, there's a lot of good features that you can have calendar-based or time-based maintenance tracked. And the software will actually prevent you from being able to check out the plane if a certain critical maintenance is due and that time is expired. So there's some nice controls there, being able to just summarize what work's been done and when. I think that'll be a good thing for Dan to keep up with everything. We also have rules in the club about you know, how recent your flights need to be before you're able to be considered current. And so that's also been a manual process where we have a separate spreadsheet that tracks when your last flight was. And so that's going to be built into the software. You can, the club will be able to set up rules to say, you know, if you haven't flown in X number of days, it's not going to let you check out a plane unless you also are booking an instructor for the flight. So there's some good stuff there. And then for all of the pilots, you'll be able to see exactly what your account balance is at any point during the month. You can go in and look and see how many hours you've flown, how much your bill is going to be before it shows up at the end of the month. So there's some nice features there that unless you're keeping track, you may not have access to all of that right now. I forgot to mention, if there's any questions, just stop me as we're going along. A quick note about some of the screenshots you're going to see. So because I have admin rights, I think there's a few differences in maybe some of the toolbars. You may see some other options in the screenshots that you won't see, but in general, this process should be the same. So, you know, just bear in mind that there may be a couple little differences, but in the main parts of the shots we're trying to talk through here, it should be the same for you. So the first thing, all of you should have received an email from Flight Circle to create an account. If you didn't, we've run into a few cases where the roster I was pulling from had either an incorrect or an out-of-date email address. So it's possible that, you know, I just have the wrong email address for you. So if you didn't get that yet, please let me know and we'll make sure we get that over to you right away. But kind of the first thing you'll do once you log in is go to your account, and there's this personal information section. And so you can populate all of that with your address and contact info. That's pretty much all you're going to need to do up front to be up and running with the software.
Scott, Mark Nagel here. I did this about 2 weeks ago. I went in, had no trouble getting to the account. It would not let me update anything. That was about 2 weeks ago, right after you launched it. I couldn't make a single entry for the edit.
So when you were on this screen, was there an option to say save?
It wouldn't even let me enter data, let alone save it.
Hey, Mark, what browser were you using?
I was using Chrome on an Apple.
Usually Chrome pretty reliable. That's weird.
Has anyone else had that type of issue?
Yes, on my end as well, Scotty.
Is that on an Apple as well?
Yes.
I used Firefox on an Apple and it worked.
I didn't try any other browser, Scott, and I can try that, but just to let you know, the day you launched it, I tried to do what you asked us to do, and Chrome, I couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like
I can try it on Firefox. I can try it on Firefox and Safari.
Yeah, so yeah, I've run into lots of issues with this with web pages. Different browsers and different platforms kind of interpret the JavaScript differently. So it's good to know these things. So now we know that Apple and Chrome don't seem to mix. But yeah, sometimes you just have to find the right browser and for the right platform. It's just unfortunately there's no real standard when it comes to web pages, so it's kind of up in the air. So all right, I'll let everybody know then that Apple and Chrome doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, but it's funny that I have to use Chrome on an Apple to join these meetings.
Yeah, isn't it kind of dumb? Yeah, it's nothing really works together well, does it?
Well, I'll try Firefox, and if that doesn't work, I'll try Safari.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. The other area under your account settings that may be useful is if you wanted to update your email or your password. And so you can see here under your account, there's user account, and that's where you'll have the options to do that. So as far as I know, that you can do that as often as you want. And there shouldn't be any issues with it. It should all be tied to you the right way.
It did let me do that, by the way. I changed the password and I had no problem.
Okay, that's good. Regarding Book Our Plane, so because the rollout for flight software is going to be on April 1st, we're not going to be using Book Our Plane for any aircraft scheduling. So if you already have reservations for April 1st or beyond, make sure that you get those into Flight Circle so you don't lose that slot that you've been counting on. So just make sure you've thought ahead to anything that you may have scheduled weeks or months in advance. All right, so for reserving an aircraft, which is the replacement for what we do in Book Our Plane now, at the top of the main toolbar, you'll see there's a schedule option. So when you click on that, it'll take you to a calendar view. there's a couple different views you can set up. Over on the right-hand side, there's a little toolbar there for views. And I think it'll let you do a month or a day or the week. So here you're seeing the week, obviously. But you can set that however you prefer to view. But you'll see all of the reservations for both aircraft in this view, just like you would have in Book Our Plane. So here you could see Daniel had the Cessna reserved for this coming weekend. And so that's what you see blocked out there. And then on the left side is where you can scroll around to different days or weeks. So the little arrows will let you move in this view, it'll move a week one way or the other. If you click today, it's going to take you to that view regardless of where you started from. So if you use the calendar icon that you can see below there, that's how you can quickly go to a specific day in the future. But if you click today, it'll bring you back to the current week as a little bit of a shortcut. So then to actually create a reservation, you'll just go into that calendar view and approximately where you want your reservation to begin, you'll click inside the calendar and this pop-up window will show up. There's the first field there that you'll need to fill out reservation. There's primary or secondary. I don't know if Book Our Plane had this feature. If it did, I never used it. But if somebody has a slot booked already and you wanted to fly at that time as well, you can put in a secondary reservation so that if they cancel for some reason, you'll get that opening. But I think for most people, the way we do this most of the time, you're probably just going to use the primary. This may be an admin feature. I don't know for sure, but the user field, whenever I go to that, I can see all the different members. So if you guys see that as well, you'll obviously have to scroll to yourself. But if that may, like I say, that may just be an admin thing that lets you book for other people. The departure and return is the window that you're actually scheduling your reservation. And then you can pick from the two aircraft. We've got the Piper and the Cessna both in there. The instructor, and Don, this is one, I guess I haven't talked with you yet, if you want this to be the way you get scheduled or not. I don't know if you want to talk about that now or if we want to follow up with people on this one.
Yeah, the other one, well, the way it's worked is fine. I just schedule my students because I know when they're available, and I don't see anybody's probably going to schedule themselves with me without letting me know first. So you can, we don't need to eliminate it or anything.
Okay. All right. And then under notes, you can kind of use that as you want, but it is public. So whatever you put in there, everybody else can see on the calendar view. So you'll want to use the save option most of the time where you're scheduling this reservation out in advance. If for some reason, you show up to the airport and you say, I just want to go fly right now, you can use the dispatch feature. But I think in general, most people are using the reservation ahead of time. And so you'll probably just want to save and that'll be it for the reservation. So after you click save, it's possible that you'll get some messages with a fail status. So this is what I got when I tried to book this reservation this morning. And it's because of the things you see listed there. So I haven't updated my medical, my flight review. I'm not current with the way the rules are set up right now for the aircraft or just flying for the club in general. So it gave me all of these failures saying, hey, you're not able to book right now, call a club to figure this out. So that's just a sample of what you could see depending on what rules may be violated at the time you try and make a reservation. But this is part of what we need to get set up for everybody to make sure we have all the right information in there so that your currency is accurate and medical status, all of that is good.
Hey, Scott, is that Guy's phone number or Daniel's phone number?
That's the membership phone number. I think you should change that.
Okay.
I'd probably move it to either you or to Daniel.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, you can move it to me, Scott. I'll handle those calls. I'll be fine.
Okay. All right. So assuming you don't get any of those error messages, your reservation will go through and you'll be back to the calendar view and you'll see your reservation added just like in Book Our Plane. So it's blue indicating that it's scheduled, but you don't have the plane checked out yet. So that's coming up in a little bit. But you know, it's pretty similar to how you do it with Book Our Plane. You're using the calendar and putting in the information for which plane you want and when you want it. If you needed to make a change after you've put a reservation in, when you go to the calendar, you can just click on that specific reservation and you'll see the drop down show up there and there's an edit option. So once you select edit, you'll see the edit reservation window. And that gives you the chance to change the aircraft, to change the date, the times. You can actually cancel the reservation altogether. So it's very similar to how you reserved it. It just takes you back to a place where you can make changes to it. So now you get to your day of the reservation, you're ready to go fly. Instead of pulling the paper log sheet and writing down the hobs and tack times for the start of your flight, you'll go into Flight Circle and use this dispatch feature. So you can use the club computer or your smartphone and just go to the Flight Circle website, log in your account. And when you go to the schedule and you click on your reservation for that day, you'll see dispatch is the top option. So you'll click on that. And then it's going to take you in to verify some of the data before you go fly. So the manual log sheets are going to disappear once we go live with Flight Circle. This is the window that pops up after you've clicked dispatch. So the hobs out and the tack out will already auto-populate from the previous user. So all you'll have to do here is verify that that information is accurate. It's possible that the person before you, when they checked in the plane, they have to enter the ending times. And if they put in the wrong number, you're gonna see it here. So it's very important that just like you, when you're writing in the log sheet, you check to make sure the person above you had the right time and it matches the plane. You'll wanna do that here. Make sure that what it shows for you going out matches what's in the plane. If there is an error from the previous person, I think the simplest thing is going to be just letting me know, and I'll get that corrected so that your billing after your flight comes out accurately. But when we get to the check-in point, we'll show you how you enter that time. But just know that if you make errors, you're going to make it more difficult for the person after you. And so, we want everybody to take their time, make sure they put in the right numbers to make this go as smoothly as possible. Hopefully, oh, go ahead.
So you, Scott, you wouldn't be able to change what those times are. You're just going to have to call you.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's going to be an admin thing that does that overriding. So I think the simplest thing is going to be just to let me or well, I think Daniel and Tanya are going to be admins as well. So I think any of the three of us would be able to change this, but it's something that we'll be able to do remotely. So it'd be real quick to make a change as we need it. And then if everything's good to go, you're not going to see any of the fails. So here, like for the aircraft, you can see there's a fail. And if you click on the magnifying glass, it'll give you the reasons, and all of the maintenance wasn't set up quite yet. So, if there's a 100-hour inspection or something like that prevents you from being able to fly the plane, you're going to see that noted here to tell you don't go fly, the aircraft's not ready. But on a perfect day, you'll just see the hobs out, the tack out, and your account balance, and then you're ready to click dispatch, and then at that point you're ready to go. After you get back from your flight, you'll be ready to check in. So again, since there's no paper log sheet, the way we're going to track how much time you flew is with Flight Circle. So you're going to be back into your Flight Circle account on the reservation that you were just flying under. When you click on the plane, I forgot to mention, you'll see in the calendar that it's green. So after you've checked out or dispatched the plane, it'll change to green on the calendar so you can see that the plane is out and it's taken. So when you go to finish your flight, you'll click on your reservation inside the calendar, you'll click check in, and then this check-in process window will appear. So you can put in when you actually came back, the return date. That's not real important. It doesn't matter for billing, but it's just if you want to keep track of how long the plane was out, that's helpful. The most important ones are the hobs in and tack in. So here you can see I just made up some numbers, and it in the green off to the right, it automatically does the math for you. So you can see what your hobs time is, which is what we bill off of, and then the tack time. So that's another good check for your making sure that you put those numbers in correctly. If you see 10 hours and you just went and did 3 patterns, well, you probably fat fingered a number inside your check-in. So just check those numbers, make sure it makes sense with how much you flew, and that those numbers match what's inside the plane. There's also a drop down here for aircraft rate. So because we have the policy that allows you to build some hobs time by doing radio work inside the hangar, that needs to be tracked so that the next person who goes to fly, their hobs starting time will match what's actually in the plane. But since we don't bill for that, there's a drop down for non-revenue. So if you're doing just radio work and tack time stays the same, but hobs time went up because you were doing the radio work, you'll have to select that under the rate. Notes and history, there's probably not much to do with that. If you have a maintenance issue or anything like that that you need to squawk, that's what the squawk tab is going to be for at the top. So before you say next, you can just click on squawks, and that's going to take you to the next screen, which lets you enter in the information of what happened. Any questions on this before I move on?
Hey, Scott, I would say in the notes, if you have a discrepancy, let's say you go to log in and somebody didn't log out, that would still notify you, but put it in the notes so you can document it at the time you're there, because our memory gets bad. So the other thing I would say is we might have a log sheet somewhere. So if the internet is down, that we still have a way of track who flew what, but it's not to be used unless Flight Circle's down.
Yeah.
On
Good
the
idea.
issue of, oh, sorry. On the issue of internet, is there Wi-Fi at the club that we could use? Because my phone doesn't actually get any service when I'm in the hangar there.
Yeah, it's Aero Club 1, all lowercase letters, and the computer's in there too. But what's nice is you can be in the plane, log in your time. So it's gonna be a lot easier.
Yeah, so it's the password is Aero Club 1, you said?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
password's Aero Club 1, and it's like Netgear something or 19 or whatever. So it's a Netgear user Wi-Fi name, and then the password is Aero Club 1.
It should be documented in the members handbook.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is.
Thanks.
Okay. So if you click on the squawks tab, this is the screen you'll see. You can add, or you can click on new squawk, and then it'll say you're the one reporting. Make the status new since you're just entering this for the first time, and then put in the notes as much information as will be useful for Dan as he tries to figure out what the issue is. And after you put that info in, you can just hit create squawk, and it's logged into the system. But back to the original check-in screen. Let's say you don't have any squawks. You'll hit next, and then it'll bring up this check-in process window. I can't foresee any adjustments or resources that need to be applied here. Pretty much the only thing that happens is the non-revenue option for a rate if you weren't flying and you were just doing radio work. So this screen, unless there's something that comes up in the future we haven't thought of yet, you're just going to click next without changing anything. Then the final screen that shows up is the check-in. I guess those are both labeled check-in process. Well, it's the final screen that now allows you to finish the check-in. So this is where you'll want to do one final check to make sure that the hobs and tack time that are being accumulated there match what was actually flown, especially the hobs, because that's what we're doing the billing off of. So you'll do the pay later on account option that you see there. That's the default. And we'll talk about how the billing is going to work, but it's essentially the same. It should be pretty much transparent to you. This is just going to be adding that you flew the Cherokee for 1 hour in this month, and that's going to get added to your account for final billing at the end of the month. So once you verify that that's accurate, then you'll just hit finish, and the aircraft's checked in, and you're good to go.
Hey, Scott?
Yep.
On the squawks, is that going to show up on the calendar that there's squawks on the airplane, and are squawks available for anybody to see, or just the person that squawked it and then whoever's maintenance or admin?
It should show up for everyone. So in the windows here, you can see there's the red circle with the 1 next to squawks. And that was because that was after I had put the tire pressure 1 on there. So I think going back a couple slides here, I don't think I have a screenshot of it. I think it shows up on this tab under the maintenance. That it should show something that there was a squawk there. I think there's also a way to make sure that the aircraft can't be checked out by another person. I think that's something that users can do, but I didn't dig into that, so that's something I should look at to add to the slides here.
Yeah, I need to look into that as well, for sure.
And I just want to add a comment maybe to put in your notes, that if it's radio work, it needs to be in the notes. I don't want to assume that somebody put no charge, that it's automatically radio work. So I would like that in the notes. And we're only talking a 1/10 or 2 a month. If we start seeing people doing a half hour, an hour, we're going to know that's flight time or something. It's not radio work. So just, it's kind of an honor system.
Yep. Okay, so so now that you've got this one flight that was added to your account, you can verify that it uploaded properly. So you're back under my account, and then there's an account history on the left side, and that'll bring you up to the list of flights on your account at this time. And then you can see over to the right in the red box, there's a receipt. And so if you click on that, it'll show you the details of that specific flight that we had just checked in. So you'll end up with multiple flights listed there that are adding up to a total account balance. That is what we're going to be using for the billing. But this is just another place where you can see a summary of your flights for the month so far. Okay, so switching gears a little bit to the billing itself. So this should be pretty much transparent for all of you. The thing that's really going to be different is the amount of information that's on the invoice. It's still going to be coming from QuickBooks. We're still going to do it once a month, but now there's just going to be 2 line items with maybe a few rare exceptions for a new member or something like that. But in general, it's going to be you'll have your dues for the upcoming month, and then you'll have a single line item for your flying costs from the previous month. So what we do now is we have each individual flight that you did for the previous month. We have the date, the hours, and the cost of that flight. And so that, could be 5 or 6 line items, depending on how much you flew, that you'll see on an invoice. Now, in an effort to be more efficient, we're going to have a single line item that says you flew for $480 worth in the previous month. And that's what that one line item is going to say. If you want to see the breakdown of where that 480 came from, that's where you can look up the individual invoices in Flight Circle to see your, how much each flight cost and how that contributed to your overall account balance. But beyond that, there's no changes here. It should be pretty much invisible to you. You're going to pay your invoices the same way you always have. They're going to come from QuickBooks, and nothing has changed there. So like I mentioned, please get in touch with me as you have questions that pop up. Anytime, email, call, text, whatever it is. I'm certainly aware that some of these things may be fairly time critical. If you're trying to check out the plane, you're ready to go fly, and you have an issue, I'm going to try and be super responsive to anything like that that's happening. Like I mentioned, we'll make sure that we have a few people set up for the admin rights that allow any of those overrides required. So if for some reason I'm not responsive, Daniel or Tanya, should be as well. So we'll make sure that has some layers built in to where you guys aren't left waiting for a response from us so you can go fly. And like I mentioned earlier, we think we have most of the high points figured out, but even as you saw during this, there's a couple questions that we still need to go address. So, we'll try and make sure you guys are all briefed on any of the changes that are happening and how this needs to work. But at a high level, we think, kind of what I summarized here should be the way it works for the majority of the flying that we're doing.
A quick question. Can you go back to whatever slide is appropriate? If I want to book a plane and I want to bring Cody, for example, along as a safety pilot to go shoot IFR approaches, what screen is that on? If I want to book him as an instructor safety pilot?
Yeah, so that's on the, when you initially set up the reservation, there's an instructor drop down. So that.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, but so the safety pilot thing for a non-instructor, that's just going to have to be you coordinating with another member. But if it's an instructor, this is where it could be done.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yes, earlier you had a screen where you were trying to make a reservation, but you were overdue for your flight physical and your biannual flight review or currencies and that kind of thing. You said, yeah, we need to get those in. Is that something that each of us members needs to go in and put those times, or are you going to carry the information that you have over to put it in?
Daniel or Tanya, let me know if you disagree, but I think we're just going to be carry that over from the current records. Is that correct?
Yeah, we need to put it in ourselves on the record, because that means if I put that your physical is past due and you've got a current physical, that means you'll be good about getting it to us and we can put it in our records, because we have to have it in our files. So we will put it in, and that way you'll see, hey, I need to get that to them. So.
Yeah, we still need a physical copy of all the records. So if, when you do update your medicals, do make a copy or scan it and email it to us or whatever. So we do still keep the physical records, and that's all because of the insurance, right? So insurance has their own rules, and we have to keep records on everybody. So when that does happen, please send it to us. Make sure you send a physical copy to us. And then I think you can either one of the admins or either you can put it, update it yourself in Flight Circle. But please do send us all your documentation stuff.
right. So for now, nothing for us to do as far as updating those things. You guys have it.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Easy.
Hopefully.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Scott?
I'm not sure, this is Don, I'm not sure, you're gonna need to put in your own information, aren't you? That we're gonna check that with records, but we're still gonna have to need to put in our own medical dates and our flight time and all that stuff into the system.
I would rather an admin put it in. It's an extra step. But if you put it in, I may not realize that you've updated it and I don't have the record, you know. So there needs to be a step where you provide the record and then an admin updates it. But I could be wrong, and that could be too messy with 20 members. Putting it in initially is going to be a pain, without a doubt. We can also let the members put it in initially and we can go compare it to the records, because we know everything's a new entry. And after that, have them provide it to us at that point. I mean, there's a couple options. So what would you like?
That's what I'd suggest. And then that way, at least flag that person. Either we know or they know that the medical is due or updated, and then we can question it afterwards.
I think that's okay on the initial entry to have members put in their own info, and then you can
Yes.
check it with the files, and then after that, we'll do the updates. I think that makes sense.
Yes,
All
I
right,
agree with that.
Kevin, that means you get to do the work.
That's fine. I just, as long as I know how it's supposed to be, I'm glad to do it or not do it.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for Scott or for me? No, we're okay? Okay, good. So I want to thank Scott. You know, he took the initiative to find this. As the club was growing, and we've been growing quite a bit. You know, I think COVID has really inspired a lot of people to get out of the house and fly. So we've had probably 20 new members in the since COVID started, or something like that. So it became real apparent to us that the processes that we had were kind of bogging down. It was all manual, spreadsheets, QuickBooks, you know, manually putting in the times listed on the spreadsheet, on the log sheet to QuickBooks, and that was just a pain. It was taking a lot of hours out of Scott's time. I know Scott has probably been putting in how much time do you usually put in, Scott, to make all the invoices? It's probably like 10 hours, right? Or at least.
Yeah, around there. And Tanya's been a huge help with all of it too. So it's that's the other thing is it's one thing for, you know, a new treasurer to get brought up to speed, but it'll be a lot easier moving forward as we, you know, cycle from person to person just to learn the process, and hopefully that'll free up Tanya as well, because she had to spend a lot of hours alongside to teach me how to do it so I don't screw it up.